Out of characters and the case for playing bricks.
If you play Dotscaper, you're behind. Read a tweet.
That's what we're leading with. I see this is a very formal video essay. All right.
By pro player and YouTuber PackTCG on February 4th, 2025. Once a common engine choice in Maliss, Dotscaper had vanished from the 4 lists that pushed through the top 16 at YCS Orlando just a few days prior. The card was typically banished off of the effective red ransom, allowing it to special summon itself to the field to extend a combo. It had assisted players in making some of the most costly boss monsters in the deck, which had subsequently been removed from lists that made it that far. It was not a card you wanted to see. It was not a card you wanted to draw. Dotscaper was a Garnet. If you're new to Yu-Gi-Oh!, Garnet is a bit of common jargon in the game. It refers to cards that you have to play for your
If he doesn't mention the history of Garnet, I'm going to be really upset.
strategy, but don't want to see in your opening hand.
How many Garnets are there in this deck?
Count them. I don't know a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. Oh no, there weren't. No, there were 2 Zephyrs. About 16 or so.
16 Garnets?
A third of your deck is Garnet.
What the fuck?
The quintessential
How did you find this? Oh my god, this takes me back, dude. Oh, this is memories. This is a 2016 stream, I think, of mine, where we had the GOAT Duncan deck building. So, it's fun little side story. He took this deck to UK Nationals 2016. This was called Beatrice Turbo. Yeah, the first original abuse of Beatrice. It didn't really take off. Weird. But the idea behind this deck was that you spam level 6s with things like Overlord Teleporter, the Malicious, Solkius, and a bunch of other extenders that summon 6s for free, like these vanillas that I think are summoned off. How do you summon these 6s? I don't remember, dude. I think there's like an insect monster that you can summon itself for free for 6. And obviously you got Brilliant Fusion. So you end on 3 Beatrice, and then what do? You can send Scattershot to pop your opponent's board. You can send Farfa to banish a card. You can send Dragon to pop a back row. You can send Alich to negate a card. Yeah, that was the combo. It's a literal 9-year-old stream at this point. That's crazy.
16 Garnets?
A third of your deck is Garnet.
What the fuck?
The quintessential Garnet is the card the term is named after, Gem Knight Garnet.
Oh, okay, good.
Back before Gem Knight was a deck that went second in OTK'd, or went first in FTK'd, it was a deck that didn't really do anything at all. However, it did possess one singular good card, Brilliant Fusion. Brilliant Fusion is a continuous spell that lets you fusion summon using materials from your deck. And if you've played Yu-Gi-Oh! At any time within the last 10 years, you might be familiar with how good of an effect that is.
They just like completely fixed fusion summoning. It turns out all you need to do is not go -3 to summon a monster. In fact, what you need to do is go +3, and then fusion becomes good. Weird.
Using Brilliant Fusion to summon Gem Knight Seraphonite got you access to a monster, the ability to send a white monster from your deck to the graveyard, and a second normal summon,
like 3 years
which
into the live
basically
stream,
made
so
it
was
the
very
best
elementary.
extender you could have for a period of about 5 years.
Wow.
Entire meta-relevant decks were built around it before it got limited in January of 2019
think
and
Jesse
banned
is
in
literally the one
January of
responsible for this.
2020. You might think that Brilliant Fusion is broken, and it certainly is, but it does have a couple of glaring drawbacks. The fusion materials you use with it must come from the deck, so if you draw all of them, you are no longer able to use Brilliant Fusion.
Oh wait, you can't even use the Brilliant Fusion because he drew the Garnet.
Yeah.
60 card deck, he drew the Garnet.
Yeah, he's
games.
got 2 dead cards.
Oh my god, he's playing 60 cards.
I don't like his deck building.
This might not be so bad if these cards were decent in their own right and warranted playing.
With insightful commentary. 60 cards and 1 Garnet. I mean, what do you want the bro to do? Like, I don't like his deck building.
Multiple copies, so let's take a read of Garnet and...
This card is useless.
For most decks, Garnet is the best card you can play to make Brilliant Fusion work, with other choices only
Number of times a Yindi picks up the Garnet. That you could do like a pickup card counter for deck profiles, and you might hit triple digits, honestly.
being preferable in specific strategies,
Did we
and
hit
also
7? I think it
awful
was
to
6 or
draw.
7.
Brilliant Fusion isn't the only card that worked like this. In the years following 2015, a
7.5.
number of cards
Dropped
were
it, yeah.
printed and saw meta viability that copied Brilliant Fusion's homework. 3 busted cards you want to play, 1 terrible card that you have to play.
I've seen some posts in Zodiac from casual players that don't understand why people play 3 Brilliant Fusion and 1 Garnet, or a 3-star rotation and 1 Oracle Zephyra. And they're like, why do you want to play cards that are terrible to draw? And one of the things that's really happened in the last year, maybe 2 years of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that we've gotten a ton of powerful cards that require you to play awful cards to compensate for them. And I think that's hilarious. I think that's a cool way to design, I don't want to say broken cards, but powerful cards for sure.
Oh my god, what a bad take. Oh, awful take, Doug. Thinks it's funny and cool that to play good cards you need really terrible cards? Oh man, I don't know. I hate that personally. I don't want to play terrible cards.
Though the theory behind these risky cards was often debated by casual
8 years
players,
ago, yeah.
the results didn't lie. Decks playing Garnet to enable strong playmakers achieve top after top after top after top after top. These cards were strong starters, strong extenders, strong disruption, and all played awful cards to make it happen.
Nothing will make me coom as hard as resolving a gamma on my own turn and summoning Chaos Ruler. What they took from us. What they took from us.
A couple of these cards even aged gracefully, and we'll get into why that might be, but one thing you might notice is that all of the cards I'm talking about were printed prior to
Why is like my suggested just randomly popping up? YouTube been bugging the last few weeks.
2018. You might think this is a flavor of the time thing, like how in 2024 Konami really liked monsters in the spell trap zone, and monsters that special summon themselves when searched, and monsters that did both. This isn't really true though, because Garnet heavy packages never
It's just crazy just how broken this card is, man. It has 3 effects and all of them are good. Like, it's
never really
insane.
stopped getting printed. After the April 2020 rules revisions, we saw the introduction of stuff like the Dragoon package, DPE, the Adventure Engine.
Dude, Dragoon was like 1 Dragoon for like 3 Garnets. My god, I can't believe we played that crap. Oh god, 2021 was awful. Celestial, Destiny, Fusion Destiny, and Dasher, like, oh my god, I hated this. Like,
The Examine
Dragoon in
Engine
Genesis format?
and Silhouette
what's the
Rabbit.
cost?
These cards were
There's
flashes
no
in the
verting.
pan,
How are you
around
selling it?
for a format or 2 and then gone. You can argue about the conditions around them that enabled their viability, but many of these have been available in formats of late like Master Duel and have not been the correct choices at the highest levels. If people were behind before, they've been catching up. The fall-off in choices like these highlight a general shift in deck-building philosophy that has taken place within the last.
I like how you can tell from the editing perspective he didn't know what to say here because he's about to yap, so you just put in the word shift with the card. This will retain the attention span of Farfa when
Couple of years. As the quality of engine cards has increased, more space
Who the hell categorizes eras like that? Do people do that? The 5Ds? Well, I guess we do. Does anyone remember the Zexal era? Like, what does that even mean? What is that, like 2012 to 2013? I don't know, man.
in any deck has to be dedicated to non-engine.
I just don't think
Let's
about
take
the
a
anime,
look at the
so-
top 32 deck lists of the last 4 NAWCQs and compare their non-engine counts.
Everyone does that?
This year, decks like Maliss
Okay.
have pushed the envelope for non-engine, with
What are you
these
gonna tell me
cards
next?
making
Rescue
up
Hamster isn't a modern
46%
card?
of space in deck
There's a
lists
Zexal
across
card?
the
Come
total
on, bro.
field. In 2024, when Tenpai was viable, top 32 decks were 43% non-engine on average, which is higher than 2023 and 2022. Engine-heavy decks similar
This is the worst part of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! This right here. the amount of staples and just defensive cards and hand traps and board breakers that you just have to play. Like, this is almost half your deck is just copy paste. You can play it from archetype to archetype, and I just hate that. I just really. Theo posted a Twitter thing saying that Genesis format probably should like drop the costs on things like Ash and Imperm, and I like heavily disagree with that because I don't want to see auto includes. I don't want to see cards that you just mandatory have to put in your deck. Because if you run out of cards to play in your Genesis deck, oh, let me just throw in like DD Crow Skullmeister now, right? Unironically, that's what I've been doing because I don't have any more points. I need some defensive cards. I'll just play these, right? But at least like, it doesn't feel as auto include as something like Ash, which might probably be close to an auto include if it was cheap enough, because it beats the Charmies, which I think you can play 6 for like 50. Just as an example, I'm talking about Genesis format, but the reason I like it so much is because you actually have to think about that a lot more. Because non-engine has costs and restrictions, whereas in advanced format, I mean, I'm just gonna play 18 hand traps in my deck and stop you 3 times and starter extender, 1 card charter, 4 card farter, and that's like how you play a modern advanced deck usually these days, right?
To Fur Hire, Plants, or Branded did not crack top 32 at this year's NAWCQ, with the last hint of Memento being eliminated in top 64. Beyond that point, non-engine composed at least 40% of each player's deck minimum. As engines have become more compact and explosive, players need higher numbers of hand traps or board breakers to be able to defeat their opponents. The ideal of opening 1 to 2 hand traps of yesteryear.
The root cause is 1 card combos, by the way. That's it. Like, you can drop 1 hand trap on your opponent and they pass on like a half board, then your hand trap felt like it was relevant. Now, if they have an extender, it does the exact same combo that the normal summon did that you stopped, and so you've just discarded a card. It's just so frustrating. It's like some of the worst like aspects of you.
Has turned into 2 to 3 today, which puts a heavy incentive to cut any engine pieces you don't need and don't want to draw. In a Twitter thread from January of 2025, Yu-Gi-Oh! Streamer and ardent out-of-characters fan Peeps yugioh discussed how wide the applications this trend in deck
really?
building
We're getting
had,
Peeps' opinion in
ranging
here?
from recently meta-relevant strategies like Fiendsmith Kashtira to rogue decks like Shark.
Reevaluating the common consensus around deck lists has been the most
He actually got him to voiceover. That's insane. Or it's AI generated.
engaging experience for me in the modern metagame. I'm playing a Shark list that sets up 1 Toad, Kraken, Virtue Stream as its end board, and it's more than enough. Shaved all the bricks. I cut Ancient Gear Box from Striker Machine. I'm playing low to the ground and playing impactful non-engine. It feels so good. The cards I'm drawing are usable.
Garnets like Ancient Gear Box can be nice to have to make certain combos more efficient or powerful, but they bring the average quality of your opening hands down. In order to main deck the proper amount of non-engine to be able to play when you go second, these cards are the first to be put on the chopping block. You need to draw cards that either help you combo or stop your opponent, which means even a couple Garnets might be a contributing factor to a deck being rogue when compared to tier 1 strategies. Due to large attendance and extra rounds of Swiss required for 8-person top cuts, players at YCSs are playing more rounds now than ever before. If you play enough rounds, you will draw Garnets, and you will lose matches because of them. One of the biggest changes wrought by modern Yu-Gi-Oh!
Basically, TLDR is the more Garnets you have in your deck, the more percentage likely you are of drawing them over the course of a wider sample size of matches. And so if you want to top a YCS, it looks like, I mean, either get super lucky, which is luck in general, but if your deck plays like 2 bricks, like you will just see them, right? Like you just draw them in, what's the stats behind that? Like 11% of your going first hands. Whereas if you just don't play any of them, well, there's a 0% chance. And that's how you top, because you basically are playing with 1 more card in your hand than you would have otherwise, right? I don't think there's really many cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or engines in Yu-Gi-Oh! Anymore that really justify Garnets, right? I don't know if that exists anymore. Brilliant Fusion might be back in Mastodon now, but like, will we be seeing Garnet again? I don't know. Exodia, well, that kind of has to play the Garnet, right? Fiendsmith with Paradise. Oh, it's like there's a lot of decks that do need the Garnet. But thankfully these days you'll find is like a lot of them are like not as terrible to draw. At least like can do something.
Was this need for
Yeah,
consistency.
I'm at 300% see lots of play.
Though there are
Yeah,
a
for sure.
variety of traits
I'd
you
play
can
that
use to judge decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Two of the most
Garnet
important
for
are
Brilliant is a
consistency
starter and
and
extender
power.
now.
The height of power in Yu-Gi-Oh! The first turn kill, or FTK, has been in the game for over 20 years now. The prevalence of one-card combos and cards that double as starters and extenders are not power creep, but consistency creep. Increased consistency allows decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! To play through more and more low-impact disruption, with cards that were turn-ending in years past merely
Also
becoming a
power creep?
nuisance to decks today.
Well, no, like, because if a card gets more consistent, technically it's not really more powerful. But like the grand scheme, this is just semantics. We're playing word goalpost here. It doesn't. This is completely doesn't matter. But like the whole point is like, if every single hand you draw can just do the exact same combo through multiple hand traps, not that the end board is more powerful potentially, right, than like 5 years ago or 10 years ago. It's just that you get to do it way more often, more consistently, and through disruption. Whereas in 2016, like, the best combo card was like Brilliant Fusion, right? Other than that, you were just doing what? Like, normal Raiden, Mill 2, special, make Minerva? You know what I mean? So, the power, significantly higher in general, but that doesn't necessarily mean, like, consistency has gotten worse or better. Like, they're kind of just, like, different things, right? Like, just imagine in your head, has the end boards gotten better this year compared to last year or the year before? Like, arguably no, right? They've actually gotten like significantly weaker, but things have gotten more consistent.
Consistency thus requires higher counts of non-engine to attempt to put a stop to these combos. This creates a bit of a vicious cycle, with new cards and archetypes being designed with even greater consistency to accommodate these high hand trap counts. This pattern squeezes out any card that is not absolutely necessary for the engine or the non-engine, making Garnets way more of a drawback now than they might have been in
Master
years past.
Duel Ass meme review.
Dotscaper was not the only Garnet in Maliss. Alliance Insight, dropping at the beginning of May for the TCG, introduced quite a bit of powerful support for the deck in the form of 2 new main deck cards, as well as Backup, Wizard, and Allied Code Talker.
It's so funny how like
Ignister.
Bestials were just the best
These cards
extenders in
added
Malice, so they were just
extension,
like, okay, let's just
consistency,
make a
and
Bestial.
endboard pieces to the Malice deck that it did not.
There's no reason, like, at Ignister's thighs have to be this. Like, they didn't need to do this. This was not necessary. This is integral to the lore.
Have before, solidifying its tier 1 status in a higher powered format. When these cards were sleeved up, something had to be put in the binder, and which cards those
was
would be
needed.
became clear following YCS Providence just a few days later. Most lists that made Top Cut had cut Malice Code TB11, the new Allied Code Talker, and opted to side deck Malice Code GWC06. These decisions were made in private testing circles, and Jibriel Braithwaite from Team JNC made it to top 8 piloting a list like this. Pack, a testing partner of his, made another tweet that received a bit of attention.
You're behind? No, I'm not. I don't play Dot Scraper.
I'm sorry, man. You're behind.
This guy's behind, chat. He's behind, bro. What the fuck?
Guys, if you play Dot Scraper, you're behind, man.
Man, if you're not on Deep Sweeper, you're behind.
Yeah, if you're not in Deep Sweeper, you're behind.
You're behind.
You're behind.
If you main GWC, you're behind. If you play A Code Talker, you're lost. This is not a video about monetized spreadsheets, and Pack wrote up an apology about the whole situation, so I won't waste any more time by digging up the drama today.
This drama was
However,
so dumb.
what I do
Basically, if you've missed it for whatever reason, you were sleeping under a rock. Pack was selling spreadsheets for Malice combos, teaching people how to play Malice through the spreadsheets, right? And then he ended up topping with the deck list that didn't even run those combos, right? Because he cut them. So people were up in arms. It's like, oh, hey, you're monetizing like a thing that you don't even believe in yourself. And it's just like, my personal opinion on that is I don't see an issue with that, right? Because he's showing you the combos of the standard deck list. Like, he's selling a spreadsheet combo. He's not selling you a class. He's not selling you a how to play, or not really how to play, but like it's not a how to play in the sense of like how you approach the game philosophically, like how you maneuver your combos, what you should be running, what you should be siding, what you should be, what lines you should be going to play through disruption and stuff. He's just selling you a spreadsheet that teaches you combo 1, combo 2, combo 3, right? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he himself will be playing those combos. Like, I just feel like it's the same argument as like, imagine he took Ryzeal to the YCS instead. Would people get mad at him for selling a Maliss spreadsheet? Oh, you didn't even play Maliss, you played Ryzeal, right? I just feel like it's so dumb because he's not... Him selling a spreadsheet, telling you all of the combos, isn't explaining... It isn't necessarily... what's the word? An endorsement of this being the optimal deck list, or this being the optimal lines. It's just, here are some basic lines, some more advanced lines, and you can choose to buy that if you want, right? So I don't know. The spreadsheet he sold was specifically Maliss for Providence. Yeah. And he did indeed sell the Maliss for Providence one, right? Just because he had his own combos, which, by the way, technically are worse because you don't play the trap cards. It doesn't mean that, like, I just think that people are connecting it from person to product so much. You can make a product that you don't necessarily utilize. It doesn't make it a bad product. It just means that the person who made it is choosing a different line. Like, do you know what I mean? I just think it's like, it's a basic, you know, intermediate guide. It's not like a secret for the inner circle. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like it's such a silly thing to get upset about. YouTuber makes a deck profile intentionally playing a less good build so people play the deck worse. Is that okay? Well, there's a big assumption you're making there because you're using the word intentionally. He's not selling this spreadsheet to intentionally mislead people into playing worse deck lists. He's presenting a basic beginner to intermediate level combo that anyone can pick up and learn at a cost. I don't see an issue with that. I don't think it's like a malicious type of misleading type of thing. Like, he's just selling a product for you to use. Advertising was the best if he himself does not believe in it. Really lying. All right, well, listen, in terms of the specifics of did he say, hey, this is what you need for this event, etc., then I don't know, maybe that's a different story. I don't know. I guess I could be wrong, but that's just personally how I view it. Okay, I don't think Pac did anything really egregious. Well, let's move on. Back to the video.
What you think is interesting is that these changes didn't exactly stick.
Sure of what his intentions were?
By July, everyone was behind
you know what?
and lost
He could be
because
doing it
Allied
overall
Code
to
Talker
mislead
was
the
back
entire
in
community.
extra decks, and
I
for
guess.
many,
Could be possible.
GWC06 was in the main.
So here comes that GWC. I think most players have been running it this weekend. There was a big discussion, I think, as to whether you still needed to run it. Now you had all the other tools available to you, and I feel like for a brief period of time everyone had decided not to run it, but now everyone's decided to put it back in again.
Of course, as metagames develop
What did that say?
To run it.
These are the words of a man who has read the "You're Behind" tweet, but I can't prove it.
But now everyone's decided to put it back in again.
Of course, as metagames develop and new sets release, individual cards often enter and leave decks.
The intentions
but for
will matter, so we
Maliss,
can't
the
know the intention on the
consensus
outside.
became that these
Pretty
cards
much,
were
that's all it kind of comes
worthwhile
down
to
to. I feel
have.
right? It's like,
There
what
are
do
a
you think
variety
the
of
intention was?
factors that could have contributed to this backslide. Maliss was often oversided against at Providence due to it being highly feared. As this was corrected, pilots could afford to cut cards like Nightmare Cerberus in favor of Allied Code Talker. With Bestials on the rise in Maliss, GWC was a nice extender and important to keep crucial engine pieces like White Binder in rotation. Or, as Aditya Darap so eloquently put it,
Do not cut this card. I have nothing to say, just don't cut it.
in my opinion, a reason these cards wormed their way back into decks is because there's a limit to the amount of engine cards you can cut. Let's compare Aditya's deck at the NAWCQ to another talented Maliss player who had an honestly phenomenal year, Lucas Sacco. Lucas ended the 2024-2025 season with 5 YCS tops, including a top 8 finish at YCS Providence, which qualified him for the Worlds Points playoffs. For those unaware, 2 of the people that attended Worlds from North America achieved their spot in a 16-person bracket, composed of those who earned the most points from topping high-level events during the year.
The
Win
cut
just
trap card,
3 matches,
ran the
and
cut
you're
trap card
headed
deck
to
list?
Worlds, baby.
Or did he play
In
like
this
the
event,
standard?
Lucas picked this deck list, which was by no means standard.
Okay, so he was playing the cut card, right? Not playing the cut card.
This isn't necessarily a bad thing. The best decks at tournaments often aren't standard. Lucas's deck opted to play a frankly unprecedented amount of non-engine, shaving cards like the 3rd copies of Backup Adagnister and Marchhair for a whopping 23 total hand traps. GWC is not in this deck, main or side.
What is so good about Droll and Maliss? I've never understood. It does nothing against the deck, right? Is it literally just to stop Charmies? Like what is? I think it's good against the Mister stuff. Droll yourself now. Bro, that is so miserable. It's like playing Called By without playing Called By.
Most controversially, the spell Maliss in the Mirror is
why not
nowhere
main
to
the
be
Call By?
found,
I saw it in the side
widely
deck.
considered a one-of by most players.
Didn't
These
it
last
Ritzenmai's
2
you?
cards are Garnets. They don't do anything on their own, and it makes sense to see them as optional when trying to include as much non-engine as you can when building a deck.
Not bad going
Lucas
second.
made a reflection.
Can you Call By the White Binder and that just turns off most of the disruption? Who cares? It's Maliss theory.
Video on his performance in the points playoffs, and in it he goes over game 2
the
of
IKEA
the
frame.
first round of the tournament.
Is that a samurai sword?
Down a game and playing for his tournament life, his opponent both Lancias and Perulias him, making it difficult to put up disruption. He is able to make it to the classic Maliss halfboard of Red Ransom Pass, but it puts him in a sticky situation. Maliss is an explosive deck. If Lucas can survive his opponent's turn, he has enough engine cards in rotation that he might be able to win even after facing down his deck's strongest counter in Lancia. However, he is not playing Maliss in the Mirror, a card you would almost always search off of Red Ransom in this situation. His opponent, Nate Shimada, opens a copy of Extraziel, allowing him to force out one of Lucas's spell traps early. Actually having Maliss in the Mirror here could have at least denied his opponent the search off of Ext after it ate the Valen pop. Lucas desperately needed disruptions, and he just couldn't access enough of them here to save himself from losing this game. There are a variety of factors that contributed to Lucas's loss, and I definitely don't have the
I mean, wouldn't the counter argument to that be like playing that one Garnety Maliss in the Mirror is not going to stop whatever that player just did to him, right?
credentials that he does to analyze them
Like,
properly,
it would just not be
so I
enough by
recommend
itself.
checking out his video. Lucas playing Maliss in the Mirror would have resulted in a completely different game down to the hands he might have drawn, and his opponent's hand even contained an unknown card that could have complicated the situation further. However, I do think this extreme approach to Maliss was a problem for him at the NAWCQ. At the end of the video, he says this.
What I will do better is I will definitely take a look at the decks that I'm going to play going forward, and I think that I need to play higher engine count decks. I think that if a better player has more engine, there's a better chance they break the board, even if the board is stronger, than trying to like nickel and dime the opponent to death with hand traps. I think that playing a larger engine would have been better for me for this event, or at least for the main event.
This fable illustrates the dangers of going too far. It can be good to cut garnets, but for
We've gone too far with non-engine. Go back.
your deck to be able to perform properly going first, it still needs to be able to disrupt your opponent enough. If one side of the spectrum is consistency, the other side is power. Directly cutting garnets like Maliss in the Mirror to benefit your consistency or increase your non-engine count can create a deck that is less powerful, which will also result in losing games that were potentially winnable. What makes deck building in Yu-Gi-Oh! So unbelievably interesting, even in Tier 0 formats, is
Does anyone enjoy that type of deck building? I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if I actually like that style of deck building, where you're picking between garnets and power. I don't like that. That's not interesting or fun deck building to me. Fun and interesting deck building to me is like, I guess like it's hard to like articulate it properly. But when I think about like recently, like I've been enjoying Genesis format because of like, I mean, I guess like the arbitrary limitation. Let me just think like, why do I enjoy that? What is it about that? I guess because it's like you have to make concessions on which cards you want to play, but it's not about which cards you're playing based on their power. It's about which ones are tied to the arbitrary like friction. I guess can't really be adapted to advanced format. So I guess that kind of boils down to like maybe I just don't enjoy modern advanced deck building or like a different style of deck build and Genesis as because it feels like concession in advanced format is basically just choosing consistency versus power, right? I mean, it doesn't really feel like the deck building there can be defined in any other way, right? It sort of is just like your engine versus non-engine ratios. Deck idea is a lot more fun than the small 1.1% improvements. I prefer engine versus engine metas. Yeah, so that's actually a good way to look at it. Like in Genesis format, I feel like I'm choosing cool engine versus cool engine. Whereas sometimes in advanced format, it really feels like a lot of the deck building is like, oh, here's like 3% consistency I can pick up. But I cannot play a Garnet. But the Garnet is also really important because it can win me some games. And that just isn't fun to me.
Is this push and pull of consistency and power.
At that point, it kind of feels very coin flippy, right? It's like, oh, well, if I decided to play this Garnet, I could have won this game. But on the other hand, the other game that I won in round 3, I didn't brick because I didn't draw the Garnet because my deck was more consistent than my opponent's, and I won that game. Well, that's not like a satisfying victory per se because my opponent drew the Garnet and I did. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that it just isn't like interesting to me. That isn't like fun deck building concessions you're making, in my opinion.
Sounds given the game's reputation, building your deck to kill your opponent into the sun just isn't optimal in Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks built to make these sorts of boards are the embodiment of win more. Ideally, you only need enough disruptions to stop your opponent from playing, and each extra disruption is a card that is potentially cuttable to make your deck more consistent or versatile. However, that minimum number of disruptions is usually unclear, so when deck building you have to do your best to figure it out. It changes from format to format, matchup to matchup, game to game. These ideas directly dictate tweaks in card ratios to give players incremental advantages, and it's something that is very important to pay attention to when reviewing the current metagame or constructing your deck for an event. If you look for it in tournament results, you'll always see fluctuations, and these are a product of people playing with these thoughts, whether they know it or not. It's very easy to take this information at face value and extrapolate on it based on current trends. Maybe next year, every deck at the NAWCQ will be 60% non-engine. Maybe Gamma will someday return to 3 because
if we
the
ever
act
hit
of
over
playing
50
a deck
for modern,
with
I
Cypher
don't know,
Driver
man.
is too unpalatable. However, what's important to understand is that these trends are responses to shifts made in card design. Though large non-engine counts were common at this past year's NAWCQ, certain engines like Vanquish Soul, Draco Tail, and K9 in the post-Justice Hunters format buck them by offering more powerful in-engine plays on the opponent's turn, supplanting the need for hand traps. Archetypes on the horizon, like Cool Tune, show this idea might turn into a regular design staple, reducing the need for heavy non-engine. Despite how nebulous this all is, I want to think there will always be a place for Garnets required by cards that do something valuable that no other card can do. Maliss in the Mirror is the only useful search target off of Red Ransom when you've been Lancia'd. Gamma and Delta were popular choices for certain decks at the NAWCQ to negate cards like Banished Maliss monsters and Mitsurugi Ritual. While I was working on this essay, I became very curious about Silhouette Rabbit, which is a card that uses a Garnet and has been out of the format for a while. It's a negate and a spell trap pop. It never stopped being that just because everyone's Snake Eyes cards are now.
Like, ask yourself, like, is that like a fun card to play in terms of like the deck building decision you have to make there? Like, it's a cool card. I can make 2 bodies into a guy that retrieves negate, right? Like that is cool and interesting. But the thing that sucks about it is that you have to play a card that pretty much is just unplayable to draw, right? Not unplayable. Like if you go first, you can just set it and it's fine. But like in a go second scenario, like that, I don't think is fun deck building, right? So conceptually, I like the idea of playing this utility card that can kind of like deal with hand traps or give me something through hand traps. But at the same time, it's like, here's a shit card I don't want to really draw for the most point, right? So, that's just kind of like the aspect of it that I don't really like.
No.
I don't think it's bad to have these trade-offs in deck building. Yeah, but that's definitely an opinion. I just don't know if they're trade-offs that I think are interesting. Right? Why sideboarding is a thing? Sorry, what sideboard? That's some paper like mysticism. What is this sorcery side deck?
Binder somewhere. Silhouette Rabbit hasn't seen a high play rate in the TCG since the death of the snakes last December, and it's kind of crazy considering it's a Link 2 that can put up 2 disruptions. That's arguably a better endboard piece than SP Little Knight, which has seen near ubiquitous play for the last 2 years. So, where did Rabbit go in 2025? The answer on the surface seems obvious. Garnets are bad. This card is bad going second. This card is bad going second.
The answer basically
Silhouette
just
Rabbit
space?
is bad.
Like, I'm pretty sure TCG has been suffering from a situation where like you want to play like 17 extra deck cards.
This isn't the full picture though, because in Snake Eyes format, these cards are still bad going second. So why was Rabbit viable in the first place? I hit up 3 competitive players that I thought might respond to my Discord DMs. Eva Lees, Joshua Schmidt, and Dan Parker. Eva had a very nuanced take on it, citing certain interactions in the format that made the card useful in Snake Eye.
It was a good card for Snake Eyes decks because Rabbit could pop the Tenpai field spell, which was very important in that format. It could also be used as a breaker playing into boards due to Snake Eyes Diabellstar summoning, and it was kind of the second best thing you could do with 2 bodies if you already had Masquerena in the tank. You're able to make this thing that gives you a trap, that gives you a summon negate, and also spell trap pop. It's pretty decent value.
Josh had other things to say on it.
I think Silhouette Rabbit's main issue is the fact you have to play a main deck trap for it, which isn't ideal, and I think people are only...
Huh? Huh?
only willing to do this if
Dude, I can't believe we're getting Josh's real voice reveal. How?
absolutely necessary. Feels like Snake Eyes had ways of handling this just by pitching the trap for Diabellstar or Nightmare Phoenix when going second.
Dan chalked it up to this common and pivotal interaction.
The only way for the opponent to synchro summon into Azaroon was to chain 2 Tenpai monsters together. However, the synchro monsters Trident Dragon and Black Rose Dragon would unfortunately miss timing due to their own Tenpai monster effects. And if
Oh, right, yeah. Sorry, I thought this was the Transcendent.
they try to kill the statue in battle, it would take down its attacker with it.
In 2024, Silhouette Rabbit served a niche. It was an important endboard piece.
Not miss timing?
It was played in a deck that focused on summoning generic.
It would miss timing. If you summon Black Rose as a Chain Link 2 from the Tenpai, you don't get the effect. And the same with Trident Dragon, right?
Links that already made use of its 2 biggest competitors and hungered for more. It was a hard counter to one of the best decks in the format, but useful against many others. It required a Garnet,
yapping?
but the engine you played it in had ways to deal with bad draws
Dad.
natively. It synergized with mechanics that summoned monsters from the spell and trap zone. All of these reasons made Rabbit and its corresponding brick worth playing, until the deck that accommodated it was obliterated.
Oh my
Now,
god, I still can't
9
believe they did
months
this.
later, things are changing again. Obliterated and its corresponding
Dude.
brick worth playing, until the deck that
High school ass presentation, dude. Hey guys, today we're going to look at my ban list project.
accommodated it was obliterated. Now, 9 months later, things are changing again. Unlike during Nat's format, Justice Hunters has important field spells with ignition effects, making them worth popping as disruption, a chain link after they are activated. In decks like Yummy, board breakers are incredibly common. Rabbit can pop these field spells, or negate some of these board breakers through the use of Apophis the Swamp Deity. For a deck like K9 Crystron that already plays a valuable continuous trap as part of the engine and has link
You've lost me,
material
Kevin. I
to
don't know what you're
spare,
saying.
Rabbit is an appealing option to side deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is endlessly inventive. As the game changes, players will write laws, start trends, and promptly abandon them as new cards and ideas recontextualize how people approach the game. I shudder
really
to
cool,
imagine a stale
graphic they did for
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Worlds.
Because even in its darkest chapters, that is something it has never been. With that, I am out of characters, so I guess this is the end.
Oh, he's out of
It was
character?
honestly
Dude,
a
that was a
lot of
long-ass
pressure to
tweet.
put out something worthwhile after my last video, so if you enjoyed this one, I would really appreciate it if you liked it and shared it with someone. Thanks to Eva Lees, Peeps, Mark the Page, Joshua Schmidt, and especially
Is it
Dan
really
from
Joshua Schmidt?
yugioh Organization for their important
But, like, is it,
contributions to
though?
this essay. I've posted links to where you can find them in the description.
Can I get a
Also,
personal
a
thank
massive
you? I
thanks
feel like
to
you
my
used a lot of Farfa
patrons,
viewer
including Dan Parker,
Twitch clips.
Drumstep, MBT Yu-Gi-Oh, and Ray. Support on Patreon is what
All right,
makes
I'm
putting
gonna-
together
someone ping me
videos
later
like
tonight
this
on
much more
Discord, so I sign up to his
justifiable for
Patreon.
me. So if you want to help my work beyond just a like or subscription, you know where to go. Be well, until next time.
This is so good.
Okay, now here's the line again in my horribly botched attempt at Josh's German accent. I'm so sorry.
Let me try to do Josh. Wait, hold on. Wait, where's the thing? It was a good card for Snake Eyes decks because Rabbit could pop the 10 pie field, which was very important in that Alright, thanks guys for tuning in. I'll see you in the next react. Make sure you subscribe to Out of Characters. Absolute banger content as always. So yeah. Go check out his channel. And someone ping me tonight and remind me to sub to his Patreon, okay? Bye bye.